Okay, so let's start with Norma. Well, Norma is 54 years old as of today. She weighs 49.8 kilos, roughly 50 kilos. Her height is 1.48 meters, which actually leaves the BMI at a normal level, right? But um, with the indirect assessment, we actually measured 29% of body fat. Um, that according to her age is within the normal realm. The normal realm. Her lean mass of 35 kilos. Well, that's it. Uh, she actually complains a little bit about her abdomen being a little bit uh, big. However, she's 54 years old. She has had three kids, and since she has been sedentary most of her life, she has a lot of core issues. She actually has diastasis in her rectus abdomini. So just based on that, we have to do a lot of core work. Maybe not with bracing activity, but hypopressive techniques to actually um, lead the walls of the rectus abdominis to close. In terms of just the OPEX body assessment, we don't have much to worry about. But if we base ourselves on the initial consultation, I have a lot of trouble um, pronouncing that. I don't know why that happens. But she has high blood pressure. She has family history of pressure. She's taking medication for blood pressure. So maybe, just maybe, her eating choices are not the best, right? So in terms of her body composition, she shouldn't have to worry much about it, but the prescription is going to focus on the choices that she makes on a daily basis. Uh, she, she has actually started drinking more water. Maybe we'll have to look at food hygiene practices because the numbers are not wrong, but her health markers say otherwise. So we'll have to go around the life portion of eating. Fueling is out of the picture right now. She needs to create some rhythm around eating. She needs to create healthier practices around eating before going into numbers. uh, okay, let's focus on the OPEX move findings. In the scratch test, she actually has a pretty decent shoulder flexion range of motion. There are significant differences between right to left um, range of motion, but she reported a popping sound on the left arm. Sorry, when going overhead, but with no really um, pain symptoms. So it's just a feeling of discomfort, but the hypothesis is that there's a lack of balance between the musculature between the anterior portion of the shoulder and the posterior. Uh, she just by her stance, we can see that she has rounded shoulders, protracted scapula. So maybe there is a history of bad post, bad habits in terms of posture, right? really common. However, I gave her a pass. In the air squat, she lacks a little bit of depth. I don't really know if giving her a pass or not, but she lacks depth on the air squat, even though she was wearing sneakers uh, with quite a bit of heel. She's not that far away. It was a good quality squat, and the inclination of the torso forward maybe is is related to the lack of core stability, right? But in an overall sense, it was a really good performance. Her elbows were extended. As I said, overhead shouldn't be a problem, but we need to be cautious because of that popping sound on the left arm. She actually said to me that there has been history with shoulder pain when going overhead with loads. So we'll have to work on motor control a lot. Maybe loads won't be good for that left shoulder. Um, on the toe touch, she had a feeling of tightness on the hamstrings. She failed that test. She spends a lot of time sitting during the day, so her hip flexors, her lateral hips should be tight as a rock. So maybe hamstrings wouldn't be my first choice in terms of being the culprit behind the failing of the toe touch. Um, we do have to actually acknowledge that in the ASLR we saw restrictions on both legs. However, she self-reported bigger tension on the left leg, which was a bit odd since both legs have um, almost the same range of motion. She failed. Her leg didn't pass the opposite knee, so we do have restrictions in the posterior chain. In the lunge, as you saw in the video, I had to help her get into the position. I knew she was going to have troubles with it. I've been working with her for a while. So single leg activity is going to be a must. She lacks stability. She needs to experience more of single leg activity before going into loading motion, right? Loaded movement. Uh, in terms of what she felt restriction on the left leg when the left leg was on the back, when the hip was in extension. So we could look at how those hip flexors are. However, she has the strength to actually do the movement, so that's wonderful. We will work on that lunge and its variations. Um, in terms of core, she only passed the front plank. She has difficulties in maintaining protraction. We will do a lot of scapular work, scapular stability, scapular control. But the thing that actually popped out the most was her wrists hurting, right? A lot of pain symptoms flared up in the planks. Even though she reached the 60-second mark on the front plank, she started complaining of wrist pain. Even though I said to her that if she was in pain, she should stop. She only said it to me after the 60 seconds were over, so that's something to take into account when executing the program design. I'm going to have to be a lot clearer with her on the feedback, stopping as soon as the pain shows its ugly face, because she tends to be the type of client that actually tries to hide the pain. in order to keep moving. That's why I discontinued the reverse plank. The wrist pain started again. It wasn't really worth it to keep on moving, even though she actually has good scapular retraction. In terms of the side plank, she has a lot of endurance issues. She doesn't have the strength to hold the position. We'll have to assign some progressions to it. But what stood out the most was the pain on the right shoulder when being on the right side. Again, scapular stability is not at its best, so we'll have to work on that. As a summary, we really have to look at those scapulas. They are actually creating discomfort. There has been a history of left pain shoulder, the popping sound. Even though she has a good overhead position, we will have to work on those scapulas a little bit, and that will be one of the one of the main objectives in this first stage with her. She has a good air squat. We'll need to work on motor control a lot, as with a lot of dynamic stretching. Since she has a lot of mobility restrictions, we won't really have to be working with load for the time being. And lastly, the OPEX work assessment. She scored 25 cals at an average RPM of 29. What really stood out there was that from the get-go there were a lot of worries of not finishing the work. She said that it was impossible to do so. So she's not really aware of how much capacity she has. She's a complete beginner, so that actually is a good thing for the prescription to come, right? We know that the frequency is not going to be that high. We'll have to discuss if three sessions a week is going to be a viable thing to do, as she has a lot of worries about hurting herself. There's a lot of mental barriers there. So in order to create awareness and the right challenges for her, we'll have to see if we start with 1 or 2 sessions a week and slowly and progressively start creating challenges. They will need to be easier, the easiest as they can be, because she needs to feel the success of working out. She needs to slay those demons that say to her that the working out means pain, right? She actually went through the 10 minutes, and at the end she even peaked at 40 RPM because she had the ability to do so. She ended up really happy. She said she had no problems maintaining the rhythm. She actually enjoyed the work, so that will be a good tool in our belt for her. We will work a lot with cyclical activity, since she enjoys it, and we'll have to be careful, be really cautious with the strengthening portion of the program design, as more than the exercises themselves, we need to work on that the beliefs she has around working out. Okay, that's it for Norma.